Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
questions?
Thank you for tuning in.
Mark Layton, Chair of the committee.
Chris Weeks of the committee.
Jeff Beck, Maintenance Superintendent.
Steve Cronin, Public Works Director.
Dave Sharples, Town Planner.
Don Bristleton, new member of the committee.
Rob Corson, committee member.
And I want to welcome Don Bristleton as our new member. Yeah, so exciting. We have a new member.
Take notes.
Okay.
There are no blinds, so I was going to say, get those out your eyes. But
Yeah. We do have another member, Alan Mangan, who's not here tonight. And we don't have a select board rep tonight, I guess. We have.
No, Dan emailed
Yeah.
earlier saying he had a conflict, so he cannot attend.
And I didn't hear back from Julie, so she might have been on vacation. Though. She was on vacation, I think. Right now.
Might have been,
Yeah, she mentioned that before. So, all right, that's great. So, Chris, you volunteered.
as soon as my stupid computer doesn't Windows updates.
Great. And I don't think we have any review approval of past meeting minutes. We didn't
I
just.
have one that I got to dig up.
And I think you and I were going to combine on our last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't drafted. Did you do that? Or did you volunteer for that?
I don't remember.
Convenient.
My
Collective memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we.
All right.
It was a short meeting, but
Yeah.
I know I took some notes. We can combine that
Yeah.
on that.
So try to get some. If we don't, maybe next meeting we'll spend some time doing that.
Yeah. All right. So then we're going to switch. We're going to start with number 4. Also, if we can get an update on our facilities condition assessment.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I've made my way through the facility condition assessment, looking over all the needs for the various buildings. On the positive side, it looks like at least most of the immediate needs are fairly minor. I think we're going to start to see some bigger ticket items in the 3 to 5 year window, and then obviously more significant beyond that. A lot of the key findings that were identified in the report, we've included some of those in the 2023 and 2024 maintenance lists. Some of them have already been addressed, but we're going to be working on a good chunk of those over the course of this year, beginning basically now as we've gotten into construction season. Most of these are exterior work, so it's going to happen over the course of the summer. Jeff's working on some of those things to obtain quotes and schedule things, and we can talk about that a little bit further down the road. But I think we're actively planning for the 2025 CIP, so we're going to be discussing some projects for that over the next few weeks. As a department, we plan to meet first week in May and kind of talk about CIP planning. So at that point, we'll start to discuss some of those projects. One thing we would like to do is integrate the report and asset count with our CMMS system, which is People GIS. So that work hasn't been completed yet. We need to reach out to People GIS to get a quote on that work and to talk to them about the scope and the things that we're going to be looking for. We're using that across all of our public works divisions. We use it for water, sewer, fleet, highway. Almost all of our assets are in there at this point, with the exception of our facilities.
In the People GIS?
In People GIS, yeah.
Okay.
All of our water, sewer, vertical assets are in there. The only ones that haven't been loaded at this point, obviously, are our town facility assets. So, again, we're going to work with People GIS to get a proposal for them to do that work. We'd like to essentially create a work order system for facilities moving forward so that we can track the work that we're doing in these various facilities, quantify it, and then qualify any of our future requests for them. Right now, everything's basically, paper record keeping. So we obviously want to be able to update that so we can, make some database decisions and spend our money wisely. Be able to, again, show the progress on completing some of the items that were in this report.
So can we just take one step back, as far as the last time we talked about this with Jeff, and I think it was with Paul, it was before you were hired, Steve, but you were still going through and reviewing all the estimates that were part of that, and they were still in the review process. I think this is like 9 months ago.
Yeah, that was prior to them actually finishing the report.
Right. So everything's done
And
now.
that report is complete. We did the presentation for you folks, and then we did another one for the select board
Okay,
a month or so after we did one for you. So this is complete. Some of the math was off. That's probably what you'll remember.
Right.
And that discussion was that night that we met together with Paul.
yeah,
So, and that's been fixed.
Okay.
And they had a problem internally with with their software.
yeah,
And that's why it didn't, there were a few items that didn't add up across the board that we had seen on a few of the buildings, and it was just a discrepancy in the software.
so,
So,
yeah, so that's corrected. So
That's
now
all
you have,
corrected.
you have a complete system that it's,
complete system and a complete report.
right, and then now you're taking the data and you're starting to develop projects, and then who owns updating the FCA? So once you guys start to do things, who's going in to
So that I think will be part of the People GIS work. We want to make sure that that's communicating bidirectionally so that the changes we're making and updating in People GIS getting communicated back into Asset Calc, so that that's constantly being updated and we can build off of that.
What about things that need to be added though? Like if you have, like they were looking at a 10-year window, I think, right, with Asset Calc. So, I mean, there'll be things that didn't make that list that now needs to get onto that list, right?
Right, so our department would handle updating that list moving forward.
Okay.
So,
So you, I mean, that's what we were hoping that
yeah.
it didn't sit on a shelf and that it was, that someone had ownership to make sure
Yeah.
that this thing stays dynamic.
I mean, frankly, our biggest issue right now, department-wide, is staffing.
Yeah.
Jeff is still down resources. We're working as hard as we can to try to recruit and get people in here. But that's certainly an obstacle that we need
Yeah.
to overcome. If in the meantime we need to outsource some of those functions, we'll look at that as an option to make sure that we're staying up to date on things. But long-term, our plan is to, have Jeff's staff doing that. The town is going to be advertising a GIS position coming up, and that's going to have some functionality with this system as well. So it's meant to be a town-wide position, so it's going to be supporting planning, assessors, as well as public works. But they'll be integral in making sure all these systems kind of work together.
Yeah, and I wasn't assuming or making an assumption that you guys could do this. And I mean, I know that you guys have staffing problems or staffing vacancies.
Yeah, I think when we originally conceived of this, it would be something either that became an outside, it's a yearly or bi-yearly, reintroduction of systems, and then so that way it's always, the idea would be is not letting it get having it be something that doesn't get used ever again. And I think that's and you guys obviously use it for all the other stuff, so there's there's a benefit to having.
Yeah, and you guys spent a lot of time and a lot of resources to use this system, right? And not just have it not be useful for you guys or be helpful. So
what's the plan going forward? So you want to get all the assets, facility assets in People GIS. I don't know if some of that, is that data portable from what Bureau Veritas did?
So that was part of my understanding, part of the RFP for this, is that
Right.
they were going to
We wanted to
basically
play
deliver
well
something to us that we could then put into an asset management system.
I think that was
They had recommended one of their own, but for us, we're already heavily invested in People GIS. We're using it throughout all of our divisions. So, to bring on an additional piece of software with a legacy cost, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think
No, I agree. And that was our intent. That's why we published initially within the RFP that whatever solution they had needed to speak with People GIS. But once you get that in, do we have, I know we have maintenance management in People GIS. Do they have like an asset management function too, in terms of, totaling
you're
each
saying from the
year's-
budget side of things.
Yeah, so that'll be one part of
the
it.
capital plan.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
reporting aspect, to be able to basically tell us what we're spending on each facility in a given year. In
Right.
terms,
Is that the People GIS function, or is that
Yeah.
going to be, the Bureau Veritas tool is free, but
I think
it
there's going
sounds
to be,
like,
there's a little bit of both.
okay. I know that one has like an, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's where the real value, I think, of asset count's going to be for us,
Yeah.
is the long-term layout of costs, whereas people at GIS, that reporting is really going to be more, what have we done on a year-to-year basis?
Yeah.
Show progress, show how we're spending, certain line items. Those types of things.
Yeah, because
The people is the day-to-day, from the work order to the aggregate within the building structure, and then each building goes through asset count. The asset count is the larger, it's more report.
are we keeping two separate systems up then?
No.
Or the data
They'll
will?
work together.
Okay, all right, good. That's what,
That's
yeah, because
I mean, we're having this discussion kind of town-wide because, all these systems are really kind of interconnected at this point. Our water sewer billing relies on information coming out of GIS, or relies on it coming out of our Muni Lake billing system, or, tax and assessors are relying on GIS data as well. So, we need to kind of understand the workflow and make sure that these things are working together and getting updated. So that's a big part of the GIS discussion we're going to be having. I think it's later next week, and kind of getting all the stakeholders in and understanding, who needs what out of GIS and how we're going to make it.
Okay, good. Yeah, because our kind of intermediate term plan or thinking was that, once we can get all that up and running, it'll be great to have that capital management planning for the town administration,
Yeah.
Russ and everybody else to be able to, and the select board as well to refer to. And
Yeah, I mean, these are going to be big ticket items down the road. We want to kind of lay out a longer term plan so that, town can look at, financing options and all those things and really understand how those are going to impact budgets in future years.
Good. I think we're on the right direction.
Yeah, and I also just try how to dovetail this into the next phase of which is as you have projects come on, how do you get those projects pre-integrated into going into the asset management? So like, Parks and Rec or even the new facility is that making sure that if the things that you want to be integrated with the system, that makes sure that whatever happens on a project standpoint, it either gets in the specifications or things like that, so that it comes back to you as data versus as paper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one thing that we struggle with at the academy is doing is close out the project and seeing that data.
Yeah.
But so what we've been focusing on now, once the project's done, is taking that information, putting it in our asset management system. So you have a new air handler, you put it in, okay, you expect the next 25 years. So even you start to put it in, so even though it's 20 years from now when you have to worry about it, but you put it in the database. And,
Right at the beginning.
yeah, so that because it's just easier to do it now.
Yep.
Yeah, you just it's brand new, so you know that it's installed in 2024, and then you add those expected lives to those.
Yeah. Plus, it also goes in your work work plan too. Your yearly maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, we do something similar on the vehicle side right now.
Right. There you go.
Get this in place and make sure that we have the resources to support it.
And so one thing is what Rob just mentioned reminded me is that what we have our contractors do when they close out a project, they give us now an Excel spreadsheet of all the equipment,
Yeah.
the warranty information.
Exactly, from engineering at the end of it.
Yeah, but the contractor you hire to do that, so say for the new fire station, should put that in as far as the closeout that they give you is a list of all that equipment. So then you can just take that list and then sometimes you can import it.
It can be, you can put it in a format that imports directly into your.
But at least you have a consolidated list. You're not having to go through all the specs and saying, okay, what's the
Yeah, you're not digging out the warranty and period.
So it helps you with that, with trying to get it into this. So something for you guys to think about is, especially these larger projects, even with Parks and Rec, with the renovation that they're doing, have that contractor give you that information.
Yeah.
Something certainly keep in mind with your other agenda item tonight.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's part of the intent here is just to be able to sit there and say, how do we help ourselves as we go forward? And then, for you guys who inherit these things, is that, how do we make sure that there's continuity and 5 years down the road says, oh, when did we put in such and such? Well, I don't remember.
That's the thing you try
That
to
case scenario is not to have to go to the notebook and or the manual that comes with the equipment after the fact.
Yeah.
Because it is 20 years later and it's a lot more cumbersome to get there.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done, though, right?
Right.
So, but yeah.
Adoption and implementation are two vastly different points.
Yeah. But if you have some of these things built in, or you at least are getting the information in a better format than trying to find it later. So, but.
I just had another thought too. Are you familiar with the board and what we do at all? Somebody explain to you?
Familiar with Mark, but, but yes.
Yeah, we're volunteers and we advise the select board and town administration and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I think one of the things that would be helpful to us is your feedback, I guess, and where you see facility needs kind of going forward. So, one of the things we'll talk about with the 2024 list is, we identified a lot of the key findings and we put those into some of the maintenance projects, but kind of taking a longer term view of facility usage and kind of what the town plans to do, so that we're not spending good money after bad, essentially, and putting, investing in buildings that, either we're not going to be keeping or we're going to be replacing in the short term. So, Public Works Garage is kind of a perfect example of that. I know we've talked about that a little bit, but, there were some things identified in the Bureau Veritas report, but, are those all things that we necessarily need to do, or should we be, picking and choosing some of the higher priority things and maybe deferring some of the lower things, those types of decisions?
Well, that really was part of the generator for the facility conditions assessment, was as a tool to be able to go through and say, as a master planning and a planning tool that says, hey, by the way, we have an investment of X number of dollars in this particular building. Its highest and best use is not that, so it's probably something we should say this could be potentially either divest from it or helps from a planning standpoint with what you're doing with the facilities over time. So I think that was one of the first steps in the kind of what was our thing, was saying, okay, we have that now. If you wanted to go through and do a kind of a master planning, either from a use standpoint or from other standpoints, you actually have some basis for how much you might want to put into a building, or, hey, by the way, if we do start putting something in this building, we're going to have significant costs to do things on it. So,
yeah, it was definitely intended for a tool for you to be able to do this, but it was also so that you wouldn't have to keep looking at just 1 year ahead, right? And so, you guys do the CIP and you look at 5 years. I think it's a 5-year CIP process, right?
Yeah.
Is it longer?
6.
6, okay. But your annual maintenance that you had was typically 100,000 or something like that you guys struggled with trying to do certain things with. I felt like this was going to be a tool that you could help show that what that should be, right? And so that you're not always trying to just put out fires, you're actually getting ahead of things. So that, to me, I hope that this will actually help you with that, so that you can show what you need to have for your renewal budget, that it's on an annual basis. And then you have your larger projects that would go through the CIP, but so that your 100,000 that you might have is not just taken and used towards things that are not renewal, but more for space or something that you're struggling keeping up on, things that are breaking, things that are leaking.
So do you anticipate sort of a reassessment cycle with this report, maybe every 10 years or 15 years?
I mean, I think you'll have to, whether you do that outsource or you do it in-house, and you got to somehow, this has to stay an active document. And so whether if you have, ideally you would have somebody that would every year is updating this, because you've built the basis, right? The foundation of this. And then if you're not adding a lot of buildings, you're just modernizing, then it may not be that heavy of a lift just to maintain this.
Yeah.
But eventually you may need to have a consultant come in and help with, maybe every 5 years.
Yeah, that study was $45,000. So maybe if we do something every 5 years, it could be $10,000 to $15,000 to have someone come in and just refresh it, I guess.
Because you have everything in the software.
Yeah, so I don't know if that can become part of your operating budget or if it, something like that. So
or even part of the maintenance projects list.
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's regular stuff, and then there's, say the thing from a code standpoint or anything else that changes in that time period. At least you're aware of something that's coming up that may be a trigger.
Yeah, and to your point, and to Mark's point about, looking out 5 or 6 years, and we hope in the near term, the town administration looks at it too, because you can work with Russ. Russ will be able to tell you, what bonds are maturing, what's coming off the books, and, then you can start that back and forth game, like, okay, maybe in year 6 we do this. There was no shortage of need coming out of the board. So, so you won't be lacking for project.
Would it be possible that we set like I don't know if it's a quarterly or an annual, maybe it's more like an annual, that you could send us an annual report or something like that from this? Is there, I don't know what the reporting capabilities are of that system, but if it was like, I don't know what time of year it would make sense for you to do that. But
I think I'll have to look at it a little closer and get back to you
Yeah.
on that. What might make the most sense.
Yeah.
I haven't, just kind of seen a first glance of asset calc. I really haven't delved into it.
We tied that reporting to like the beginning of your, looking at capital FY, 2025 at 2026.
Yeah.
To me, that makes sense. Is if you sit there and your reporting is tied to starting to do your annual budgets, and you really are,
Yeah, I mean, whatever, just so we can start to see, like, here's what it's telling, the database is saying is what their priorities are for next fiscal year. I mean, I can't remember how it was structured, if it was.
Ultimately, like to get that, with vehicles as well.
Yeah.
Same thing. So you're tying those decisions to
Sure.
some sort of data.
So the next one, any more questions on the FCA or? Okay, with that?
No, sounds like, you guys are gonna be moving it forward, so glad to hear that.
So the next thing is tied to that is the 2024, the maintenance projects that.
So these were the items that were on the 2024 list that basically created a $100,000 budget. So as I said, some of these, most of these came out of key findings in the report. Starting with DPW, we were wash bay and water sewer garage repair. We had smoke and carbon monoxide detector replacement, some work to the front steps of town hall, repairing the exterior walls of the historical society, additional wall repair at the highway garage and the maintenance garage at DPW, dumpster fence and gate repairs to the public safety complex, and then some repairs to the metal stairs at town hall as well. And then rounding out that project list was some remaining items from the Department of Labor audit that we had to complete before.
part of the assessment, you got the other assessment, you got.
Yes, yeah. So as far as progress goes, as I said, we're getting into construction season now, so Jeff is either has some of that work scheduled or is working on quotes to get that work done. The carbon monoxide smoke detector has been done. We had some roof issues that developed over the course of the winter and with the heavy rain. Yeah, it's been one of those years. So some of those repairs have taken kind of priority over the wall repairs for now. So we're going to get those addressed as quickly as possible and then see what remaining work and funds we have available to take care of some wall repairs. On the right side, Jeff and his team, they were able to complete those DOL projects with some remaining funding in the 2023 budget. So that 22,500, there may be some minor things out of that, but we don't anticipate having to do the majority of that work. That report and that audit has been closed out at this point, so we're in good shape there. Which is good because we've had a few unexpected things pop up, like door repairs over at the public safety complex that Jeff and his team have had to work kind of quickly to address. So they get their work cut out for them. Again, as I mentioned, staffing and resources are kind of his biggest obstacle right now, and in finding contractors to do the work. But we got some work laid out ahead of us.
Right. We have roof leaks or taking the priority roof leaks where at DPW?
Yes,
Which building?
the main building, the highway shop,
Yeah.
several,
Mix.
not one.
Yeah, so
Is that like a pitched roof,
Yes,
shingles?
yeah. Steel building, metal roof.
Trace what's causing those yet, or?
Every place there's a protrusion through the
Oh,
roof
really?
or a vent. And over a couple of the doors where the building is sagged.
Hmm.
So, and that's part of the snow load issue from years ago.
Yeah.
So the snow load issue was identified in the report. That's something we're gonna have to look at over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, reported in 2015 and then re-reported in 2022.
Is this the big one that wants to be replaced, the engineer building? No,
Yeah.
okay, that's what you're talking about.
Yes, but in the meantime,
Oh, not the office building, but the garage.
the office building, I had to repair the roof on the office building over the winter. So, but that's been done. And yes, that roof on that building is for more than structural reasons. It's just, it's old. The building is old. Things come apart.
So we had Weston and Sampson complete their feasibility study of the DPW garage, so we have that report. We sat down as a team and sort of evaluated that, and kind of look at what the needs are for the department. So we're working on a strategy for CIP on how we're going to move forward with that. Our thinking is probably to address the fuel island and the access and safety and security concerns first, and then move forward with design for kind of a master plan for the campus, replacing the building. They had identified probably keeping the water sewer garage and the wash bay as part of that campus. They're in good enough shape that it's worth rehabilitating those as opposed to replacing them. And then, really trying to figure out the sizing of the new facility to make sure that, we account for growth in the future as well.
So Weston and Sampson looked at the whole campus, or just that building you're talking about?
They looked at the whole campus.
Okay, so they did.
Yeah, so it was just a very preliminary feasibility design. They gave us some concepts of layout. So we kind of looked at those, and one of the issues that I have right now is security for one. We're very close to the highway. It's not the most secure site. And then we have the public basically coming through sort of work areas. They're coming through where we may be loading dump trucks or filling salt trucks. So, trying to eliminate those public and work, travel conflicts is something that we want to probably address in the short term. And then you have the whole septage disposal aspect as well. So we do have, we take septage at the wastewater facility, so we want to be able to make sure we're getting those trucks in and out without impacting residents.
Is that a completed study, or are they doing anything else?
So they completed the feasibility study. We're going to have them come back in ahead of capital planning to kind of discuss what they envision for sort of the next phase.
Was that in a warrant article item that there's funding to design?
I believe there was. Not to do the design, just this very preliminary feasibility.
Just the feasibility. Okay. If you care to share the feasibility study, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think it's on our website, but we can
Oh,
get
all
it
right.
to you.
Okay.
So was there one point that there was a staffing or organizational study that was happening, and I think it was town-wide that was happening? Wasn't there, what was the company that was coming?
That was Bill Keegan. That one you're talking
I'm
about?
not sure, that doesn't sound familiar, but it was something about that they was kind of looking at each department.
Yeah.
Was that one?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Okay, did they look at public works?
They did, yeah.
And-
Yeah, I mean, we don't see, I think, incredible growth in our department, but we have identified some needs. The GIS position is a new position that's being added. We're adding a water operator, wastewater operator this year. Those were budgeted for. I think long-term, you're going to see more of a demand from the stormwater program through our EPA permit. So I think, that could maybe translate into resources down the road, but kind of thinking about those types of things as you
Okay. Part of the feasibility of Weston Sampson, they're taking into account the organizational and the staffing.
Yes, yeah,
all
I did
of
look
is-
at that.
as
Yeah,
you're looking at.
yes, it made some provisions for growth. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd love to be part of that if when you guys get ready for us to, if that's going to become a warrant article. That's what we push back on. Some of that work is for you to do that, so that you weren't just focused on certain parts, that you looked at the whole compound that you have down there. So,
Right.
I think it's great that you did. That's why we push.
Yeah, I mean, we have to also take into consideration, surface water treatment plan and what the decision is on that and how that impacts current office space as well. So
Yeah. Right? Any questions?
No,
Good.
awesome.
No,
Yeah, that's really good.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'll look into sort of some of the reporting functions that we have available to us now. Circle back on, what might be a good regular schedule for updating you guys.
Yeah, it could just be, you just send it to us by email, or just,
yeah, this time of year might be good for some sort of overall report as the CIP process starts. And usually what we do is we just focus on the vertical elements of the CIP and, we'll advise the select board on that stuff. So we don't get into the horizontal stuff at all. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and it's good to be aware of those as they come down the pike, and, we can help frame some discussion.
They can be
around some of that
expensive.
stuff. What's that?
They can be expensive.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I think we're, particularly interested, I think, in, again, what are sort of long-term plans for Town Hall or for Court Street as well. And,
Well, yeah, and there's some crime needs at DPW on the campus too, so.
Yeah.
As you know, Jeff knows too well, and you're getting to know.
right? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come down, guys.
Okay. Dave, before we go back, or go to police station, fire substation, Parks and Rec. Is there anything?
Yeah, I can give you, I don't know, I didn't rewatch the meeting. I think I gave you an update last one, so if I'm duplicative in some things, but what happened, and well, for the benefit of
Good meeting.
the new members, see Steve, that JSA was, we issued an RFP, we contracted with JSA to do some work.
Yep.
And they got through design, schematic design. And they have the schematic design done. The recreation, is happy with it, with the schematic design. For a variety of reasons, they mutually parted ways. Yeah, it was like, well, there was some misunderstanding about the RFP, about what was expected in it, and and so forth. So they kind of like, well, we need, more money to do this, more money to do that, and it was like, okay, let's stop, because it was under a design bid build. We were they were like full design and then go out to a GC and get it. So they decided mutually part ways. We have the schematic design. We're going to get the Revit file, and then they brought
Who's the firm, Dave?
JSA.
JSA.
Is that short for anything, or it's just JSA?
It is.
It used to be.
Yep. It was.
Yeah.
Kim Soames.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
They're down early.
but it was mutual.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, it was mutual. I guess I wasn't involved in this, but it was mutual. They were like, okay, the best thing to do is, they advised, the rec what they thought was to do. So we took we have the schematic designs. We're getting the Revit file, and then they brought me in I don't know, maybe a month ago or so, to kind of help strategize. Yeah, help strategize with what to do. And I was like, okay, so but I'm just getting up to speed on all this myself, so we looked at it, and we've been talking with some contractors and, CM, construction managers and so forth. And it looks like we're going to go out we're drafting an RFP right now to get a construction manager, and ideally a construction manager. I forget the AIA contract we're looking at, but the one contractor with a guaranteed maximum price.
Yep.
A133?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. We're looking at that one. We do have multiple ones that we're looking at. Like a stipulated sum. We're just getting a fire hose of all these myriad of little nuances between all these. So we're getting up to speed, but we've been talking to a couple. That's where we're leaning towards. And the people that we've talked to that are in the know said there's no issue, because we do have to spend the funds by next August of 25.
Okay.
And those are the grant funds. But the few that we've engaged with, that they don't see any issue with that, with the work that needs to be done. And then they're kind of a couple of them, we're asking getting different advice, and we'll get more at the RFP stage and the interview stage. But it looks like we're going to take this schematic design, put it out with the RFP, ask for a guaranteed maximum price, because we had some people look at it that said, yeah, there's enough here to put a price on it. So go ahead and ask for it.
So you're not gonna do it, so it's not a design build scenario, it's right to the C, to a CM.
So who's gonna stamp the drawing?
That's what I'm saying.
No, well, yes, exactly. So that's what we were putting it in there because we were talking about that. We're like, there's some people out there that they'll have the architect. You can either do the owner and then you got the CM and the architect.
Yeah.
You know, while we like to do on this project, it's not like we're building a new critical facility.
No.
Right? We're doing a renovation. So we're hoping we can just get a CM they'll sub out the rest of the design, mechanical.
So it'll be a design build, it's basically a design
Well,
build.
yes and no. Like I've been learning, there's like 45 different ways. But it has a CM. It's a design build with a construction manager.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's still, but they're gonna be responsible for bringing on the design team to complete any work that they need, stamp it, and make sure it's got
That's
stamped, so if you've got structural,
What is the scope? Sorry, I didn't mean to go.
no, I
Yeah,
think they have an elevator in it,
yeah, lift.
so they got a lift and.
it's a lift. Okay, so it's
a
just
lift.
one stop lift, just going up.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
88 bathrooms. Right?
Yeah, 88 bathrooms, little partitioning of making more program space by removing walls, and then the biggest thing is mechanical and electrical, and insulation. So they're doing a new mechanical system,
Okay.
and then they need to meet as part of the grant. They need to meet or exceed New Hampshire energy codes.
Okay.
And then they did make some, I don't remember exactly, but they did promise a little bit, like, okay, we're going in R60 in the, in the ceilings or something like that. And the whole building envelope's going to be, taken care of. So there's that.
Okay. That's good. So it is pretty simple. I mean, this is.
It is.
So
It is. The fire suppression there's fire suppression in there. It needs to be moved, the lift, but it's not too complicated, but
it'll probably have to be updated once you change spaces and all this other stuff, mechanical equipment.
yeah, so
And-
there's some MEP work to be, done.
Yeah.
This is why I asked, is this going to be a publicly occupied building?
Yes.
So I go back to when we went through the doors aren't going to meet ADA. They're not wide enough for me to meet ADA.
They'll have to address. I mean, we said the lift.
I don't know, that was the direction. I don't have the.
You'd have to see the SD design because I'm hoping they address that. That should be in SD.
Correct. That's
Well, that was one of the goals, was to make it ADA accessible.
correct. And I think just it goes back to that, making sure that that's part of the conditions for that it complies with accessibility and all the other things.
Absolutely.
There were a couple of areas too upstairs that were really, really challenging from a accessibility standpoint. So just
Well, I think, if I remember right, I know the ADA, so it's like, not every space, there's some spaces that if, if we have to take the roof off and replace the roof, we're not going to do that, so.
Yeah, it's not.
We're going to make the upstairs bathroom, it's ADA, we're putting an elevator, a lift in to access it, but I'm not sure every space is going to be
It sounds
accessible.
like a level 1 alteration, which it doesn't.
it's the financial part of it. It triggers it, right? It's the 20% of the value of the property, right? That it's basically.
I don't know what they do in New Hampshire. We actually do it by area in Mass more.
Right.
Floor area. And we're not touching a lot of the floor.
New Hampshire's the whole building.
No, a lot of the square footage
Yeah, so
That's what I'm
impact
saying.
is
It's a
pretty
level 1
small.
alteration,
Yeah.
so it's not
Yeah.
going to trigger upgrading the whole building.
But you have to spend a percentage of the whole project. You have to spend towards accessibility improvements. Is what you'll have to do. So this 20% rule.
Yeah,
The lift is probably going to get you there. That's what
I can say it probably
Yeah.
will, right?
That will get you. Then you
main
can
entrance with a ramp.
Yeah, so you get the entrance in, you have the lift, and you have hardware, and that will probably meet the 20% of the project that has to be.
they put another egress in. They're putting another egress
Yeah,
in.
there's no
So the
secondary.
stairs from the second floor and secondary means of egress and so forth.
Yeah, sounds good.
I mean, it sounds like a good approach. So you're going to have a design build with a CM, and you'll have a GMP with this. Who is going to manage that? Because this is going to get tricky. someone needs to have oversight. And
Who
it
was
should not be Parks
managing
and
it
Rec.
when it got to the point where the RFP was kind of messed up and the expectations were not met on the original design? Was that Greg or was it, I don't want to throw Greg in the bus, but if he was running it, and then, I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, the rec was taking it
Okay.
initially,
Yeah.
and
So I wanna make sure
managed the
next
project. What I was hoping to do was that we issued an OPM, an owner's project manager. We issued an RFP a couple weeks ago for an owner's project manager for the police station, fire
Yeah.
station. We did not feel that, this project warranted that
I agree.
extent. But we are hopeful that we're going to have one on board in about a month and can use them a little bit as a kind of a sounding board, if you will, to figure out what to do. And then we'll internally figure that out. So the answer to your question, we don't know who's going to manage this project yet, but we're hopeful that we get someone on board for that. We're going to kind of understand the process a little better.
It goes back to that same conversation we had a few years ago, just in general about, from a process standpoint, whether it's somebody that's part of DPW, that's basically the owner's project manager, person, to help with these projects, because it shouldn't be the librarian managing the contracts. It shouldn't be the
Right.
department. It really needs to be the town as a whole, somebody who's knows about contracts and knows about these things, that's actually managing that and looking at pay recs and doing things like that.
It should be centralized. It isn't going to. I mean, when you have somebody that is the direct benefit of these projects, that you're going to you run the risk of scope creep pretty quickly with this. Right?
Yeah,
Especially
this is
somebody doesn't have a good handle of a design build approach that's unique. That's not everybody has that experience, and so it can quickly go from this is what you want to do to where now you don't have a lift, you have an elevator, you have this, you have all these other things that someone's not understanding what's happening, and it happens quick. So
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's critical about it is that's why we're taking our time with drafting what the scope is, picking out the contract, taking our time, getting up to speed at the same time, talking to some people, and then that's critical for the selection process. We got to make sure we select someone who's really going to,
yeah, no, it's good.
got a good track record.
Yeah, and I think that it's great that you're involved and you're doing this process. But at the end of the day, the CM makes money off the cost of work, and so it's to their benefit that the cost of work grows. Right? They get a percentage off that. Now you want a CM that's going to be open, it's open book, but at the end of the day, that's how they make money. So you just have to that process has to be understood, and that's where it's a partner. But everybody. The person at the table, people make money off that. So that's just, you just have to understand that as you go in, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, the ones we were talking were they're just kind of like a cost of construction plus a fee. Mm-hmm. That's what the guaranteed maximum price.
the guaranteed maximum price is based on a document.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you start getting change orders about added scope, that's where somebody has to know.
Unforeseen conditions, things like that.
But it has to be someone that has to be this what is added scope? What is unforeseen? What should it have? Well, and that's where schematic design is really hard. That's a very, very, very.
No, I know.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah. Well,
that wasn't under the C, so that's added scope.
But at some point, what are our options?
No,
it's at some point you got to kind of, go ahead and, keep certain contingencies in there for those unforeseen. They don't get guaranteed maximum price can't be what we have. I mean, it has to be what we have minus.
It's more about the process. So, Dave, I mean, I think we're all glad that you're involved and you're part of that. I think it's just that process and the checks and balances and who is managing those things when they do come up, and then having those discussions like, no, that's in scope, that's not out of scope, you own that. And so, I mean, those are the things that will happen. So, I mean, it sounds like
who you
really
judge.
No,
you dictate an ideal situation. It would be great to have someone, but the reality is right now, DPW, the staff and resources and bandwidth, really, we don't have that person that's familiar with these contracts and so forth.
No, but I think that's, if you start to think about long-term planning for the town, is projects get bigger, and when you have $17 million project or whatever else it is that it's big money. So the reality is that, and even with these smaller projects that are being executed, there could be a position in which had, oversight of projects, right? And they're an owner's project manager for the town. And it's, and so I think that there's probably a new position. I don't go cut that out. No, but a role for stuff like that that protects the town from, like the DPW used to always have a clerk of the works, right?
Yeah.
And so all
As
the
a
projects.
permanent employee or just that budget to
They
hire?
would actually budget to hire a clerk of the works, or they had, sometimes they had it, but it was a clerk of the works that was primarily out there to make sure that the work's getting executed, it's processing paperwork, it's doing things like that. So it's not to say that, it would be a good discussion to have about does the town, it shouldn't be the town planner that jumps in the middle of these, is that, and I think they're because you guys, you have project managers and they manage it as owners project managers for projects. And
Yeah, no, it's a tough one when you guys don't have the volume of work, but but maybe you can with who you hire as the OPM for the big one.
Yeah.
Maybe you can, maybe they're big enough that they have a person that they can say, we can give you a few hours.
1 day a week.
Yeah, or something that you can afford. I think that.
Well, that's what we're thinking. We have funding that we could, once we get someone on board, and then our purchasing policy allows us, and it would be small money, a couple grand, whatever.
Yeah.
We can pull him into this project, him or her, I'm not saying, and then pull them into this project and say, help us out. What do we, what do we do?
It could be it's the company that you hire that has the resources in that company, right? You could say, hey, we just need somebody to help balance this off, and because they have a design build experience. So I think, I'm speaking for myself, and I think it sounds like a really good approach for this type of project. It's just the process that it starts to worry about. So,
that's what we're working on.
Yeah, my last comment on the rec center is just the design. So it sounds like you'll have the CM. They'll kind of subcontract out the design. I just want to make sure that gets done right. And it's not like an afterthought by somebody who just stamps it. It's pretty straightforward, although the introduction of a lift, to me, I'd want to make sure that's designed very well, that the lift fits and that we've got the proper foundation going down to support it. I don't know what kind of fire rating we need around that and whatnot, but I don't know. Any thoughts on how to provide like a QA check on the design of this to make sure that what your CM is getting is good,
I think when you do the RFP, you should make sure that they provide what they're using, right?
That's where we're going to have to assemble a team.
Yeah, and at the end, you have the code enforcement officer that will have to be part of that, right? To review that, and if you're requiring them to stamp the drawings, then you have that. So
it's not a point and tell type of project. The contractor comes in, the general contractor, and goes to work.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing here is there's certain elements of this project that can be forecasted ahead of time or through the process that need to have design associated with it, rather than discover that as you're going along.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the lift to me is the big item.
Yes, fire protection maybe as well, the lift may be, handicapped, we've already talked about those. So there's certain aspects of this that need to have a proper design, I agree. And that get the hands around that at the front end rather than during the construction.
Yeah. Be clear with expectations, right? Like what are you asking for?
That's a question that we asked ourselves the other day. It was because we could go out for an RFP for the design services, and and it just seemed like this isn't that.
I think your approach is the right approach.
Okay.
That's my thought is the right approach, but I think it's just making sure you have the checks and balances, and that's the key item. So
how could they? This is what maybe we should provide some guidance then on this. So, should we recommend that in the RFP that they say that we should have someone stamp?
Yeah.
I guess as far as what parts, what disciplines though? I don't think you need to have an architect stamp everything. But do we, and I don't know, not knowing the scope, but you said a full mechanical system, so should they have it be, stamp that, or I'm not sure how, so I mean, I guess maybe that's what we should provide some advice, I guess, on that,
Yeah.
so.
So, and I think it should be. I mean, I don't think in this day and age, most of the mechanical contractors have an engineer or people that they, so if it has to meet, again, ventilation requirements, code, energy code requirements, it has to fill out the energy code forms, which are.
But they might not have a PE and stuff.
They have access. I mean, most of the even
Well, the sub might even have some.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think to me that's the point, is that if like you have an engineer that does the drawings, and then the mechanical contractor does the.
I'm actually. I mean, if it was a design build mechanical contractor and they had to provide a stamped set of drawings, that's what I would say it would be.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm trying to get to. Is
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's what we should provide some advice to the town. Like in the RFP, you should make sure the CM provides, stamped drawings for what disciplines. If it's mechanical.
I mean, we always have to
electrical.
do mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, architecture. I think that's it. We don't have to do anything else in Mass. I don't know what in New Hampshire, like when you do it.
So MEPF, I heard.
I don't know if there's a
right?
final affidavit in New Hampshire that you have to do, no? Okay.
You do it.
I mean, it's not enforced. Let me put it that way.
Yeah,
So,
you do according to the National Building Code is required to have an affidavit.
And a substantial completion notice.
You mentioned MEPF and then a fifth one.
MEP, FP, architecture. Yeah, those are the.
Yeah,
five.
the F was the fire protection.
Yeah.
So the
The
added
fire
P.
protection will be the same as the mechanical. There'll be a sub, the installer, who can give
Yeah.
it stamp.
Yeah, so I think most of those areas, the subcontractor will have. I think the only one probably that might not have something would be electrical, but like plumbing, fire protection, and mechanical
Yeah.
will all have an engineer
Yeah.
accessibility.
Didn't you mention something else? Architecture?
Architecture, yeah, because they're gonna need to stamp. I want to see, can you give us the SD package that you have
Yeah.
today? Okay, I'd love to see that. The lift, I just want to make sure that that's accounted.
Okay, so I think where we were a little relieved when we heard from a couple of folks we spoke to about the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, because we were like, design bid build, like we couldn't do it before, next August, it's like, but I don't think it would be tight. Now, so people showed us there's no issue if you get, you get someone on board by the fall. They're saying this should be wrapped up by then.
Well, let's hope so.
But we're not going to take that, but we have a little bit of time, so maybe I just bring the RFP back to you folks at the next meeting, if that works.
Yeah, I think it's good, but I think from what I heard right now is that we were all asking you to do a complete set of stamped drawings. I mean, we just named off every discipline. So,
Well, one thought comes to mind is as this RSP is done, put the responsibility on the design build contractor.
Right,
To
yeah.
specify what elements of design to meet code and regulations that he or she will provide.
Yeah.
I hear this guidance coming in is good, but this way we're not responsible for the guidance that's been given. It's turned around the other way, where the contractor has to illustrate what elements of design is going to meet code regulations.
So you put the question on them, what they think needs to be stamped.
In
Yes,
your,
for this
in your
project.
proposal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, yeah.
okay.
So they could say that we only think we need to have, mechanical and electrical.
And then that's an element of
Yeah.
review for Public Works or the planner or ourselves to take a look at.
Yeah. So
That
what's
way
the-
we're not leaving something out
Right.
that comes back then and says, well,
Okay, so put it on them.
Yeah.
put it on them, yes.
I like that. You tell us.
Yeah.
And then during the interview process, if they all recommend the same thing,
Because if they're a qualified design build, this will be just background for them.
Yeah.
They'll know how to do this.
So that way you're not asking for something that they can come back and say you don't need, right?
Yeah.
You're putting it
Or overdoing it or under
Yeah.
requirements.
Well, that's great.
Yep, I like that. All right, I think you're gonna work out well.
Yeah, all right.
the listening mode and picking up a lot.
Anything else on Hampton?
A lot of good things.
I don't think so. That's good. Those are good
Continue.
next steps, yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I think, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We get a budget for that. You're gonna do a GMP. And in the time frame. Yeah, it'd probably be good to move on it sooner rather than later in terms of getting someone on board and getting it going. I know they all sound like you've got plenty of time, but
Well, that makes a difference with his suggestion about instead of coming back and hashing out the RFP, if we just put the onus on the CM to tell us what you got, I think we can get it out.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. You got, I don't know how many CMs are going to respond, right? So you got 3 CMs, and they each have a different approach. You can, those are
Yeah, I
questions.
think we'll get 3. We already have 3 people interested
Good.
in talking, so.
What is this, like $1 million job? Is that what it
Yeah.
is? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what it is, Billy?
Yeah,
How
like
much?
980, something like
Yeah, I was
that.
gonna say that's the, what was it, $1 million grant, right? Or,
Yeah, it was like 980, but some of that has been spent, like with JSA and so
Right.
forth, so, you know, we might have, I don't know what we have, but we have less than that. I mean, we still have the lion's share of it.
And no one's using the building right now? Is it empty?
No. Yes.
It's
Oh,
empty.
really? Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
time to get rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once you select somebody, the advantage is that they don't have to wait for it. They may not have to wait for the design documents. They can start very quickly.
Demo and other things.
Oh, correct. There's, that's why we chose this method.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you did design and build, you'd have an architect, you know, in an office somewhere and
Yeah.
wherever, and
And this one, you could probably jump from SD to CD, I would say, you know, like you don't need to.
yeah, I'm not gonna call out all the different, I'm just gonna let them,
Yeah, they can go right to permit section.
you tell us how you wanna do it, basically. How are you gonna do it?
Yeah.
But I did ask the question, because we were gonna go without a GMP, and then once we get someone on board on quals and stuff, then work toward a GMP. But the couple contracts were like, no, I think you got enough here to get one to compare. You
On the
know, and I'm
SD.
like, okay, well, why not then? You know, why not get one?
I think you do, like, to your point is that, I mean, that's what your GMP is on those documents. So whatever's not on there is still going to be considered on the scope. So those are things you have to manage that as the design process goes. And then something evolves through this, like, oh, by the way, we have to do this, but it wasn't on the SD, then they're going to say it's out of scope.
Yeah.
But those are things you have to manage when you get through.
Right.
it. So,
Or if in the GMP, they have a design contingency portion of the GMP. So,
That's what we, yeah.
Right.
so at least you're managing to a value. So as scope becomes more clear, then the value gets honed in and it either comes back to you or it gets, more scope gets added.
No, yeah, I'd love to take a look at the SD documents. We'll keep it private, won't just, or send them around or anything. But, yeah, I'd like to take a look and I'd be happy to give my opinion if I think they're ready for pricing and ready to go to permit
Okay.
stage drawings.
Cool.
all right, so let's just focus on one more topic. It's the police station, fire station review of the draft design RFP. So thanks, Dave, for sending it out. So I don't know if everybody got a chance.
I have
I didn't
not,
look at your.
I've got yours open right now and I'm just starting to
Yeah.
look at it.
So we can go through if we want. Don,
Yeah.
did you get a copy of it?
I did.
Okay.
Although I didn't see, you said you had sent comments, but they didn't show up on the.
Once you save them, once you save the document and opened it on your laptop.
That's will do it.
Then you saw the.
Oh, really? I'm sorry about
I
that.
can see them right now. I've got Word opened on it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I didn't.
Yeah, you gotta open it, like if you open it from the email, it won't show.
That's right, I did. I thought it,
And
okay.
then you save it to your
Really?
desktop, and then you
I
open
didn't
it,
do
and they
that.
all show up.
Okay, okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it was just a quick way for me to update and stuff. So
Yeah, no.
I don't know. How do you want to do this, Dave? You want to? What do you want? How do you want to walk through this?
I just go right, like, I mean, you didn't have any comments on the project overview, the description, or the schedule of the design team's selection schedule. Yours started the scope of work. And I almost put that in the email, but I didn't. I was like, can you focus on scope of work? Submission requirements and minimum quals, like the last 3, so that's kind of where you focused on anyway. So I just say do that because
Yeah.
You did recommend, your first comment was recommend including milestones that the design firm needs to meet. When do you want the full design completed? Do you want the design phases completed by a certain date? I mean, I guess so. I mean, I relied, this isn't enough. Do you need that information? Because what I say up in the project schedule was we're contracting with the CM. We contract the architects from June, July 24. And then initial GMP by early 25, and a final GMP in late spring 25. So doesn't that dictate when, don't all those documents have to be done by then?
Well, they do, but do you want to review the documents before they go to the CM, right? So you should be very clear that when do you want first of all, you should be clear of what do you want the deliverables, right? Do you want them to do a schematic design, a design development, a construction document set? I mean, those are all up to you. And then,
But why wouldn't you?
well, because you could streamline it. I mean, you could have a choice. You could say we want to go right to design development, and then from there, it depends on how many check-ins do you want.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Do you want time to review them for internally? How long do you want that?
That's why we hired an OPM to tell us that exact questions.
Yeah.
Like, so we need to know that before we issue the RFP?
Well, these guys are to do a proposal. What you want to know is just what do you need to put on for staffing? What's the dates of this? How many deliverables so they could?
Yeah, I think it would be good to do that because the reality is that it's also going to let everybody that's out there have an even playing field.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you really want to do is state what your expectations are right up front. And I think it doesn't, the nuance of it, they come in later on, won't matter as long as you're sitting there saying, we want an SD time, we want a time to review it, we want a DD time, we want a time to review it, we want a CD time, we want a time to review it, so that you've got a clear path for what you're expecting from a deliverable.
We put in actual dates.
I don't think you put
That's a
dates,
tough
you
one.
put a timeline, right? It's kind of when you want these things. And
Yeah, I mean, what I would have done.
But then how do you pick that? Because like some people, like I'm getting questions about, other RPs are like, well, that's not realistic. So how do I know if it's realistic or not?
Well, yeah, well.
I guess that's what I'm like, because we don't know. I'm not an architect.
Yeah, but
I don't know how hard
so,
this is.
but I'm going to speak for me.
So I'm just asking the question.
You
Yeah.
can ask
How do I-
them.
But so first you would say when do you want I would say this is when you want your
We ask
documents, your bid documents, right? This is, let's say, the construction documents. So what is that date? Is that, you should just say
I
that's
thought it was-
October 1.
Yeah, that was like, aren't those tied into a guaranteed maximum price?
So what are you thinking that you're going to give to the CM or the RFP process? What level of documents are you going to be giving them for to hire a CM? All right, when are you going to hire the CM?
Right away. Like,
Okay.
the initial, we want to contract with an OPM next month,
Okay.
okay? And then we want to contract with an architectural firm in June and July 24.
Right.
And then issue the CM proposal right away. Soon as we get, or
The GMP.
no, the CM,
Okay.
construction manager.
Okay, you're going to hire a construction manager.
We're gonna hire a project manager.
Yep.
We want to get them on board because I think they're gonna help us with the construction manager RFP and stuff. So then
Okay.
I don't have to kind of try to figure this all out on my own. So he's gonna help us with that. But we were planning on already issuing the architectural design firm
Yep.
services RFP.
Yeah.
Right. So then once we get the owner project manager, we're gonna say get the RFP to the CM out. So we anticipate contracting with the CM by August.
Okay. So
Maybe a month or two after the architect's brought on board, we're going to have the CM on board, and then they can start collaborating right away.
So the last few that we've done basically told us when their expected start date was. They said that we were
of the
going,
construction.
yes.
Yeah.
So, and they asked us to provide with a Gantt chart with milestones, which were defined milestones to get from
Yeah.
where the project was initiated to that date. That was
Yeah.
what we were asked to provide for
Yeah.
a
Okay.
deliverable scenario, and it also had things like board meetings, public meetings,
Yeah.
things like that were identified as significant milestones within that quick Gantt.
Right, so I mean, that's what we would typically do too. We would know when we were gonna start the construction, when we needed to, actually, we would say this is when we need to finish the project.
Yeah,
And then we would
and
backtrack
back it
what
up.
we think it's gonna take for construction, and then we would say, okay, well, then we have our trustee check-ins that we have to do, right? So we would back this up. So I still think that, I think it is a good idea that you would say what your anticipated construction schedule is,
Yeah.
right? This is anticipated that and then you could say that we would,
Wait a minute, is this to the design firm or the CM?
this is for the design
That
firm.
Okay,
You're telling them what-
I asked, is this adequate? I asked for a milestone schedule for the design of the new facility, followed by a brief opinion on the proposed initial project schedule above. So those are the kind of
Yeah, I think, do you have an idea of the construction timeframe or the start?
yes, the start, well, we say, final GMP presented to the owner in late spring 2025 and construction to begin as soon as possible thereafter. I didn't want to put a date at, once we get the, then we gotta go to the select board, get the, clear that, so I didn't want to,
Yeah.
but you're talking late spring 2025.
But do you,
And then we're thinking fall 2026
Right.
but
So
like
you're starting
sooner than that, I didn't want to put it too far out.
right, but you started construction spring of 25. Well, what would you like to base the, and you're probably going to say the OPM is going to help you with this, but what are you thinking that the CM is going to base the GMP on? What level of documents are they going to be basing the GMP on?
Well, I think when I'm talking to CMs, it seems like it varies depending on what trade you're looking at. Because someone was telling me like, oh, I can take schematic drawings and I can get this trade, and they'll be able to bid it and give me a fixed price.
Yeah.
But on something like this, like mechanical, I'm gonna need full, like the level of documents. That's what I'm being told. I don't know if that's true or not. It's the level of documents is different depending on what trade you're going on. So to finish the final GMP, you need all the trades, right? To have done it.
Well,
So,
so the better design you have, the more detailed design, the better numbers, the tighter numbers you're going to get. Okay, just keep that in mind. So if they have a design developed 50% design, looking at this, they're going to say, okay, this is only based off this. They missed this, they missed that. I want to add these numbers. I want to add that. And then hopefully the next level of design, that's all figured out, right? That's detailed. So they don't have to make those guesses. They're looking at this and saying they're going to base it exactly on what they have on there, but they know that it's stamped drawings or it's issued for bidding. So they know that they're going to use that where they don't have to fill the gaps, right? Where the CM, that's what you're hiring the CM for, will help with that process. But the better documents, right, the better, a better number you'll get. So, so this is the balance though, because if you're hiring the architect and you're going to be paying them to do all the way through CDs, then you're paying them for that. And then you hope to get a better number as a GMP. The other part of that is if you say, hey, architect, we just want you to go to this level, and then we're going to go to a GMP, then you're saving some design money on that. So that's the balance that you're trying to do here, right? So you're trying to save a little bit on the design, and you're
How do you know
taking
which
the
way to
risk.
go?
You don't. It's the risk.
Exactly.
So you're balancing the risk, right? But it depends on the.
Wow.
I mean,
But isn't there risk either way? Because I've gone some design build projects that were just a disaster because of the design.
Right. I mean, you get a lot of, we get a lot of variables. How well were the
Yeah.
documents? How well was the contractor? All these different things.
Yeah.
We'll talk a lot about process. Who's managing that process? How good did they do the process? So, I mean, there's all kinds of variables.
It wasn't in here in Exeter though for the game.
Yeah, but to me, so when we do these, we are very clear to the design team what the deliverables are. So we tell them this is what we want at schematic design, design development, and CDs. So we are very clear to them. Yeah, you don't have to do it that way.
Well, it's not that I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't think we have a person here in town staff that's qualified enough to dictate all those different things, and understands the difference between design to development and schematic design. I mean, I know the different milestones, but I couldn't, if someone gave me two plans and say, which one's which,
So I mean, does it make sense to wait until you get the OPM on board?
Well,
Where you do this RFP.
well, the problem with that, There's a couple different ways. You can either get the RFP out on the street and ask them the questions to provide you the schedule and that information, like kind of your idea, so they have given, and then you compare, things and whatever. But I've been told that the timing of it is such that you really want the sweet spot to go out to bid is like January to April.
Construction.
Yes. And that's where you're going to get your best
I would
price.
mix it up. I'd say late fall. It's the late fall for the
Okay,
holidays.
well, we're not getting to late fall, I
I was
guess.
gonna say,
We're not
in
gonna,
6 months.
yeah, we're not getting late fall. So I guess for this project, was trying to hit that January to March timeframe. And they said after that, you're probably gonna pay a 10% premium because everyone's kind of schedules filled up and they'll kind of throw higher prices. They say, if you want it done, and, I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard that several times in the thing. So I guess I'm trying to, if we wait for the OPM, we're pushing it out, another 2 to 4 weeks or so.
Well, can we? So I mean, all of us will probably do this differently. The way that I would have gone at this, I would have tried to streamline your design approach to this. I would have gone. So I guess. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but thinking about the process, how many estimates do you think you need from a CM? You need 3, you think?
Yeah, no,
Three
For
total
each
process?
phase?
3 for each trade.
No, I'm talking about through the design process. You have a concept right now, right? La Valley gave the concept.
Okay, so they already have a concept one.
Yeah.
So you have a concept price, I would say 2 more.
Okay, so you're thinking 2 more. So
Concept
probably,
is the initial one because you need that, is it?
so do you,
Yeah,
so
you need that
roughly,
to take to the voters.
so say you left roughly 50%, you
Yeah.
have an estimate, and then when would be the next one? Because eventually they're getting to a GMP. So
I think that
is that the second one the GMP?
yeah, it could be second one could be your GMP, and then you're gonna have
To me, that's a CD.
Yeah. Yeah. So right. So I would agree with you. I think you would need to have one more estimate. So around 50% design.
DD.
Yeah, and then that's it. And then you have them finish the design, and then have the CM give you the GMP. Yeah. But
Okay, because the OPM might be able.
Yeah, they might be able to inform on that. I guess
yeah, no, they definitely will inform you on that. I
Okay.
mean, we're right now we're taking that role of an
the
OPM.
only, let me
Gotcha,
throw this
gotcha.
at you
Let me
just to think about. So if you
Oh.
wait till 50% DD, we've got a 2-year-old concept price, 50% DD, a lot of stuff is pretty baked at that point. If something comes in high.
but that's why they actually.
Not a 2-year-old.
But what's good about this is that he has this
This
qualified.
price is escalated to 2025.
Right, and you also give him a thing is your firm's initial written opinion on the team.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that would be a similar language you'd have in your CM thing would be is a review of the concept pricing that's already been done to
with the
date.
CM.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's similar. It's the same language that you have in there right now for the design firm is your firm's written opinion on the town 17522.
We asked everybody that. We put it in the
Which I think is a
CM,
great-
the architect.
I think,
Yeah.
Just,
but I think ultimately, to tell you the truth, I mean, 4 weeks to wait till you get your owner's project manager on to me is worth the wait to get them on board and have them engaged at the beginning of the process. That this is my opinion, it's not
yeah.
as opposed to they're not going to be part of the process to even bring on the design team. You're not getting the value, that value out of them being engaged in helping you select the people that's the design team, get you on board.
Well, let me stop you there. No, that's why we staggered it. We do expect them to help us with the design team with just the RFPs out on the street because we only did 3 weeks with the OPM, and then we staggered it 2 weeks, and we're going to go 30 days with the architect. So we plan to have an OPM on board before the deadline for proposals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we thought, and so they could get started right away with us. So they would be involved in the proposals and the selection process.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking.
I mean, I think
We were just trying to be, I get what you're saying. It's like, you know, we were trying to be
It's a large
efficient as
project.
possible.
It's a large project, and in 4 weeks in the whole grand scheme of things, is to me, it's a very, very, very small amount of time. But
No,
that's,
understood, but the people were saying the 10%, you know, I mean, you're talking a couple $1 million here, if that's true.
That's the
I don't
other
think
thing
it's true.
too, is you're saying if you want the
Oh, yeah.
designer on by the second half of the year.
I have other copies if everybody
Okay.
wants one, so that's the,
Yeah, there you go.
do you guys want a copy?
sure.
Jackie, just send them
Electronic,
Yeah,
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Don, would you like a copy?
Are you
Paper.
guys, are you guys telepathic or how did you?
I've been
uh,
listening upstairs. I had a meeting earlier, so I only started hearing halfway through, and I was like, I think this might be helpful, so.
Cool.
I have 2 more I'll bring down.
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think your timeline's pretty good in the sense that you'll have about 6 months this year of the architect and 3 months in the spring. So 9 months for this type of project, I think is a pretty good design cycle, I think.
it depends on how much time you're doing for the estimating and how much time. So if you're at DD, are you saying pencils down at DD and waiting 3-4 weeks to get cost estimating, de-scope it, go through it, and then move on? So I think that's part of that same understanding, is that's why the OPM to me would be a really helpful person to timeline the whole thing. To
Oh,
say,
I don't disagree.
but it's going to be that level of nuance that you're going to sit there and say,
Right.
we want you to stop work at design development. We want to take 4 weeks to do an evaluation, and then we want to go forward to see if we have to make modifications to the contract, to the documents, as we go forward in the CDs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To me,
I have to go to the
yeah, that's why I see value with the OPM to help you with.
Yeah.
They're going to help you with managing this process.
Oh, yeah.
But to me, as you write this RFP, what I was looking at is so that you get apples to apples from the different design teams.
Yes.
And so you get a better number, is that you tell them exactly what you want so that they can, I mean, to me, it's, which I know you're like, well, what do I want? So, right. So, I mean, we can tell you what we think you want, but we're not managing this process. So I can tell you what I would do, but that's different. Chris and Rob and Don would tell you something different. So
That's,
I mean, but I would say that, but you, just like you are with everybody else, just be very clear of what, set the expectations. And so for this, is that they need to set their team, right? So what effort are they going to put towards this? So, I mean, that's where if you go to a large enough firm, you tell them the schedule and they're going to figure out how to meet the schedule, right? Or they'll tell you, this is not the right project for us, we can't meet that schedule. So, but you want to develop the schedule for what's best for the town to meet the deadlines that you want, right? So you tell them the anticipated start construction date is, May of 2025, expect a bidding period of 3 months in the spring. We have to have bid documents by this date in order to meet that. Then the discussion will be, what does bid documents mean, right? And that will be when the CM comes on board. What do they need for the bid documents? And that's what you were talking about, is what detail do they need for the bid documents? They can work with the architect and say, look, focus on the structural, I need the steel out, I need this out, I need the site done. So focus on these things, get those things done. All the other stuff, I need 80% design, because I can fill the gaps, right? So
Mark, what you're saying and what I'm hearing out there, David, is there is a schedule out here. Here we are here. You anticipate when you want this job done.
we were thinking fall of 26.
All right.
We were thinking 16, 18 months construction time.
There's your bookends. You already have some items in here that you can fill the Gantt chart out, okay? But the more specificity that you can put on that chart, whether it's going to be the OPM or whether it's going to be you or somebody doing that, the more beneficial it's going to be to your understanding, because there's going to be a lot of discovery in this. Just what Mark is bringing orally, talking about some of the things that you need to do. But somebody needs to do that schedule. And somebody needs to fill all those blanks, those spots in there.
Well, that's what I want. Where do I get a list of what those spots are?
Well, you could have
That's why I keep on saying.
you could have the OPM do it,
Yeah.
or as you talked here before, if you had the staff here, that's something that would be done by somebody that would start laying this Gantt chart out.
Right, and it also goes back to like what Mark was just describing would be is that if you're looking at what I'll call a fast track scenario in which is going to be multiple packages, that affects the design team in certain ways, and they're going to look at this project by saying, okay, well, if I have multiple packages and I'm going to be issuing structure at one point, I'm going to be doing like this at a different point, it affects that workflow as well. So you really have to sit there and kind of tailor your project delivery methodology with the design team, so that's where the OPM, that's why it's worth me waiting to but,
Okay, how about like, because I haven't done a critical facility or like a big building. A big building. I've done a lot of park and infrastructure projects. But like we always go and put out these schedules and everyone commits to these schedules and then
Well, you don't.
and then it kind of goes, and then you're always dogging the companies to get you what they want, and so there's no.
You don't.
I don't know. Sometimes
you don't need a critical path right now. That will come once you get the general contractor on it or on board. They'll do that. What you need right now, I'm recommending, is a basic Gantt chart that shows all the elements that get you from here to there, when the dates are. And that gives you a level playing field for all those who are going to respond to the RFP.
so someone has had to made a few of those in the past, right? So can I get one?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Because
I can go pull an RFP that I've got and just.
well, I bet you can pull 10 RFPs and they're all like, I mean, some are 1 page, some are 30 pages.
They're usually fairly consistent. I mean, especially for like more, say, institutional or municipal type things, they're fairly as far as what they want.
You can do it as
I've looked. I got
David,
10 different examples, and there's not one that's similar.
Well, Dave, you can do it.
That's what I've been running into.
No, David, you can do it. You can do it as a chart, or you can do it as a narrative. The point is, all the elements that are important need to be in that schedule, and that gives you the level playing field for everybody to respond in the same way.
Okay.
Yeah. So can I get an example of that schedule? Like,
Or a draft.
Well, I mean, you've started, or I mean, I think you.
no, I know that. I know I've started it, but I need to finish it.
I know.
So in order to finish it, I like examples of good ones.
So what we do, we list the dates. These are the milestones that we're
Because
asking.
that's what I mean. That's the list of the milestones.
I know, but you just worded it differently. Yeah,
I thought I was going to dictate that in the RFP.
you do. But what we're talking about is that you just go down through the town intents. You just say construction. You have most of it. The little bit more detail that you need is what do you want for deliverables? The design development? The construction documents?
Well, that's what I mean. That's going to be in this Gantt chart, right?
Delivers one way. Yeah.
What you're asking them to deliver to you is the Gantt chart. What you're giving to them are the dates. So what ends up happening is you're saying to them this day, here we would like you to present to us the design schedule, and here's the how we get from here to here, and here's the milestones we want you to.
Exactly. So that's what I'm asking. Give me an exhaustive list of the milestones that people ask for.
Okay, but I mean, I can say something to how I would do it, but that's not how. I mean, I would have been very.
That would be nice to get a start.
Okay, I'll do it
because that's what
I'll send you. I mean, everybody will do a different approach. I mean, I would have said that I want design development by this certain date.
Yes.
And I would have anticipate that there's going to be an estimate, that there's going to be a 30-day gap. But then we want construction documents or bid documents. I wouldn't say construction. I would say bid documents are due by this date, by December 1st. Then we'd have a bidding period.
Well, that's what I want to see. Like, if you have that done, that'd be great.
If you want to take notes, we can go through it right now. But I can send it.
Well, if you have one that's already done, I can.
It's almost 7. I want to kind of accelerate the rest of this. I think.
Yeah.
So Mark will hook up Dave with.
Yeah, I actually have one too. We just did it for Dartmouth.
Yeah,
for Dartmouth, and it was it had similar,
That'll probably be helpful.
Yeah, because I got RFP, there's a bunch of RFPs for new police stations out there.
Yeah.
From various towns and various different
And
people.
as far as
And some
marketing-
of them are like, I've seen a 2-pager that like has no detail, it's just saying, we're gonna build a new PD, give us an RFP, to a 35-page one that has a scope of services that's 8 pages and probably 185 bullets on it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and then I'm like, okay, where is our space? Because it, you know,
Yeah, I look at the dollar value for it's a $17 million project, so which is not long. It's a pretty good sized project.
Yeah.
And so that's boy, it doesn't have to be 8 pages of scope, but it should have a fairly clear.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
So even things like for what I put down was you have to attend meetings. I would say you have to attend at least X number of meetings.
Exactly.
You need. We're
I
gonna
put
have,
that in there, but then got taken
No.
out because it was like, well, what if we need them for 5 meetings? Then it's a
Yeah, but you're
scope
setting,
change.
yeah, but you're setting, well, no matter, but if you don't say anything, they're gonna tell you it's based on this.
Well, that's what we asked. Yeah, like how many, you know, we asked, you tell us.
But
how many.
I'd say that
Yeah.
I reverse it the other way. That way, is when you get apples to apples, or you say, give me a price per meeting.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I think the thing is with a professional services contract, I get that in comparing it, but it's not a low bid situation.
No.
With us, it's not like, oh, okay, they're 1.9, they're 2. It's almost like it's everything combined. So that price is like, we know that we're going to get to negotiation of scope and fee. We're going to have that conversation. It's not an RFP in New Hampshire. It's like a binding legal contract that they.
Yeah, but so
they
why
give us a price.
why wouldn't it make sense to start out so that everybody's apples to apples, and so you know that
I don't think
they're
you can
basically-
ever get there.
Yeah, you can. If you give them a very clear RFP, base your fee on 50 meetings. or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, exactly. You can always get to apples and apples. Apples. And apples.
You have enough that you can say that this is the scope of services, that there isn't any gray area, or there's less gray area between these proposals, right? If you just leave it,
Yes,
open,
that's
they're
what
gonna
I'm
come to
talking
you.
about. Yes, yeah.
You're gonna come to you and say, well, I based it on this schedule, and I based it on this many visits, and this many meetings, and this many presentations, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what that number is. Someone else has a completely different approach. So how do you compare those two? If you can define something, then define it, and then yes, you negotiate it later. We don't need 50, but we know that your cost per meeting is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, because I put in, I forget, like bi-weekly or something like that. I said during the duration, because like, you know, whatever I put, but, and then it got, we've kicked this around several times. And
Yeah, I mean, you can do it that way. You can say.
so I get it. More specific, I get it. More specificity, the better. I argued that too, about getting to apples. I don't even know we'll ever get there because
No, you
people
won't
like,
be.
you know, like be like, okay, I'll use this person for that, and I'm going to use a $150 an hour person. But, you know, like people do that, you know, kind of stuff differently. But
Yeah.
I think we're just looking at it
Right. And
a little globally. You know, the price, not dollar for dollar.
Yeah, but you want
But
to be
more
able to-
specificity is better.
Yeah, I mean, it has
Exactly.
to be. So,
Exactly. I
so
agree.
apples to apples is a very generic term. Like, you
Yeah.
don't want to start from apples to cucumbers,
Right.
right? I mean, you
Right.
want to be able to, at least you're in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can, if you have the ability to negotiate because you want to fine tune, somebody comes in and says, yeah, I'm going to do it this way. And then you can say, well, then we don't need 50 meetings because it's only going to be 20 meetings that we need. So you work with that. You got to start with something. And at least you get it.
Yeah, no, I like that idea because you put it out there and said but everyone might have a different idea, saying you don't need 10 meetings, you know, you need 2, or you don't need 10, 10 meetings isn't good enough, you need 20.
Right.
But at least they're responding to 10 and budgeting for 10. So their cost proposal is for the same. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
On your fee proposal, while it's in there somewhere, is you haven't specifically asked that you want fees by each of the schematic design, DD, construction documents. That's implied, and they'll probably come back with it. And related to that is more your field,
Yeah.
Rob, is that are you going to specify the AIA form that you want these in?
Well, we haven't got there yet. I guess that would be nice.
This is going out. So
Yeah, but we haven't decided which A and I won't
Well,
use.
Yeah. So,
either they're going to come back and suggest that or ignore it. But if you go and ask for, what is it, the B101?
Yeah, well, what the,
Which one should we use?
131 or what?
131?
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
that
it
one.
was 105,
Yeah,
right?
105.
So
105.
if you, again, the level playing field, if you ask what form that you're anticipating, they either can come back and recommend something different, or they'll all
I'll put it
respond on
in
the, or they'll all
Anticipate.
respond on the same basis.
And
Yeah.
so I think we could give you some advice, because even like on the scope of services, I would titrate that a little bit more to interior design. I'd go a little deeper into what you're expecting to get at it. I don't know whether we're going to do any furniture as part of that. How much service do you want? Because you could say architecture, this is where you get the gray area, right? Well, what does that mean? Some firms provide 100% of the interior design as part of architecture. Some people don't. So you got to be pretty specific that you want.
So the I can't remember which one it is, if it's the B101 or
B141?
is that what it's
Scope.
services? There's a table that you could have them complete.
Yes.
That says this is what is basic services and what's additional services. And we've used that in the past so that you have them fill that out. So they tell you, this is what's included in my basic services, and this is what's additional, because
I think that's a great way to do it.
and I'll send that to you. So
Yeah.
what will happen is a lot of times a lot of firms will say, well, we'll have limited FF&E or interior design and part of our basic services, and others will say it's additional.
So
Where it comes back to the road is that later on in the process, when you ask the architect to do certain things, the architect's fine, I will, but that wasn't in my services that I wanted.
Yeah.
right? So can everyone send me like,
Yep.
okay, like I got a bunch of RFPs, like the way from distract, from one page that says, we're gonna build a new police station, and then, give us a proposal. And then there's ones that are like, trademarked, that are like 40 pages, 30, 40 pages.
Yeah.
So where is that? Like, does someone have, like, this is a good RFP. If I read this RFP, I'd know what to respond. You're going to get apples to apples. If everyone has one of those, ideally for a similar project, could you send that to me? So then because the ones I get, they're all different. There's not two that can
I think it might be
compare.
helpful too, not just the RFP, but maybe an example of a contract too, like.
I got that.
Contract.
I have the
Filled
AIA
out?
contracts upstairs.
You mean the blank ones? The
blank
They're
ones.
not filled out yet. We could maybe provide you with some to show you what they look like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
To
we
tell
can-
all the general
I think we
conditions.
can provide you
all that.
with some good basic information and things like just to think about, like, is this going to be a net zero building like we talked about before? So there's some other languages.
Yes.
Is it LEED? Is it, just
That's a
sustainability? Is that,
certification,
is that an initiative or not an initiative?
Yeah, so they're gonna, that's one of my comments, they'll have to have a sustainability consultant most likely on that, right? To be able to have.
You may have to do some energy modeling, and that's going to be.
Correct. And that goes back to that, the checklist.
That was-
Energy modeling, it becomes part of the,
Well, that's where, we were thinking about, you mean the building commissioning?
so what they do
No,
is
separate.
This is design.
Separate design.
This is a design.
Okay.
It's part of the design process, they'll have to do the energy.
I don't know where we're at with the energy code in New Hampshire.
it's the same code as that
It's
applies to everyone.
Well,
They've adopted their version.
If
It's the 2018
or something
2015,
like-
yeah.
I don't know if you're, energy modeling, do you need to do that or no?
Well, the issue
Well-
is whether you do it or not. If you're doing a net zero building, what would be the standard of care for a net zero building? For me, it would be energy modeling, and you do it at the very first thing from a design standpoint. You'd look at it from your exposures to all these different things from an analytical standpoint.
And it may come back again in the selection of materials and such as you're going to have 3 pane windows, or you're going to have 2 pane. It's going to affect the energy modeling. It's going to tell you, whether it's going to work or not.
So, all right, next steps, because we're over some time. This has been really good. I've sent my comments. I guess, what's the timeline that you would like to have?
Yeah.
People return comments to you? Can we say a week from today?
That would be nice.
ASAP.
Because we meet with the internal staff that's working on this, that there's a group of us, I think there's 8 of us. That includes PD, fire, finance, myself, building
Yeah.
code enforcement, anyway, administration. We meet every Friday. So by having something for them to maybe look at by next Friday would be nice. I'm out for the next 2 days. So, but then I'm in next week, so having something that I could put something together for next Friday afternoon would be great.
Okay, so you guys have my comments. If you can build on top of that and add your comments, and so who wants to send? Do you have an AIA contract you want to share? You want to do that? And anybody has anything they want to share? I can send you some copies of what we use for AIA contracts. I mean, it's what we typically we have a standard one that we use. But we asked them to that checklist that we've talked about. We've asked them to fill that out. So I can share that with you.
I would think, so not to overwhelm you, because you can get overwhelmed. I would think if you've got something good and you've got something good, that ought to be good guidance for you. Yes.
Yeah, I don't care.
The only other thought I have is whoever's keeping track of the budget, because the budget is somewhat fixed. The end dollars are somewhat fixed here for this project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
We consider them fixed.
Okay, so you've got all your hard costs, and then you're going to have your soft costs. And where we're talking in here is a lot of things can affect those soft costs right now, because somebody's got to pay for the OPM, somebody's got to pay for the other elements that come in that we're talking about. So I'm just saying, whoever's keeping to the budget needs to keep track.
Yeah, you're,
Well, but
yeah.
Oh,
as you go forward.
well, that's the OPM's job.
No, yeah, it's true. However it comes up, it's just that those elements that are going to cost money need to be identified up front, not later on.
But you didn't put a budget in for the OPM when you did the budget. Yeah. So this cost of an OPM is
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, there was a range of, what was it, like from 14 to 15.9 was the range for the project that included soft costs and construction soft, included everything. But then we took the high end of that.
okay.
And then we added 400,000 for the net zero ready component.
Okay.
And then we added then it went to the warrant, and the warrant failed. And then we went back and like, okay, that was 16.3. What do we do? And I talked to a professional cost estimator saying, what do we do? And they're like, add 7.5%. That's what they forecasted it as. So 7.5% got added to that, went to the voters. I've heard recently from that same cost estimator that the actual came in at like 5.5. So essentially there was a 2.5%.
Yeah,
So we're thinking
3 to 4%.
Well, that's where we're thinking like with the higher. But then I heard from people that OPM's lion's share probably saved that in the project. So like they reduce the change order. Like if you don't have one, you're gonna they're gonna be fighting about this, and this. So the OPM's gonna head that off with the design team and the CM and smooth that out, so you're never gonna see it. So they're basically not pay for themselves, but a lot of
They
that
have a value.
money well spent.
Yeah.
Do we agree?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they definitely add value. I think you need, because you don't have the staffing. I think you need that. I mean, whether they pay for themselves, I don't know if you pay for themselves.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, I didn't say that. So people said, no, they don't pay for themselves.
Okay.
But they're like, I heard one person say they could pay like the lion's share of to head off. But I mean, how do you know that?
If you're over budget, I mean, I think, I absolutely agree. They add tremendous value because you don't have the staffing. This is the person that you need to help manage this. Otherwise, you could be over budget no matter what. But this person would help minimize being over budget. So.
Yeah, but then also, I did talk to a couple I talked to a firm and they were like, oh, you don't need an OPM. We'll be your OPM.
Yeah.
Right? But wait. No, I get that. But aren't they going to build it if there's no OPM? Like who tracking this stuff? Aren't they going to build some of that OPM? They're not going to do it for free. Right, so I'm thinking when they build a proposal, do they say, oh, there's an OPM, so I don't have to do X, Y, and Z?
David, there's going to be thousands of decisions that will have to be made in the process. And the OPM should be the person that can come to you, whoever, and make the recommendation because they're technically competent and they're current in the industry. And they can come and they can say, this is what the contractor's recommending, this is what we should do, this is what I recommend.
And then,
Because otherwise, you are going to do it or somebody else is going to do it, and it's going to drive you crazy.
and the other part of this is that you have the construction costs, but then you have the construction costs, but then you have the fees, which are owner provided fees, and you got furniture, then you got all.
Provided fees.
In other words, a contractor, CM, is not going to manage the fees for your consultants. They're not going to manage your. They're not going to manage your furniture procurement. They're not going to manage your, say, like your communication center procurement and installation. So there's a lot of things that they don't coordinate and manage.
It's a good call to have it independent.
Yeah.
So yes, you could have the design team.
The OPM does this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You could have, so the design team could say, hey, we can provide that service for you, but then no one's watching the design team.
Well, I know, but then that's my point is the design team can do it, but they're going to charge you for it.
Yes.
So if the OPM costs you X, well, it's not like that total is X added to the project, because if you have the architect doing these things, they're going to charge you for it anyway.
Somebody gets paid.
Somebody gets, but that's my point.
You're saying that if you didn't have the OPM, then you would be having to hire the architect to do it. So that's
To do some of those things.
Right. I think yes. You're right. You could pull back some of the CA that the architect probably would need to do if you have an OPM on site. But
Correct.
But the OPM is going to be doing more than what you would be asking the design team. Exactly. So, and it's probably better.
Exactly.
I make a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, we could have done that a little while ago. All right, so you're out, Dave, next couple of days. We're gonna get comments back to you within 1 week.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in
I'll
to
try.
Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.